All right, we have multiple pressing stories to get to. Stories that include bombshell audio just out from county commissioners who are pissed as hell over Colorado Secretary of State Jena Griswold's office covering up for what they did leading up to the election, or what they didn't do, what they failed to do. There's even a Denver DA investigation now underway over that voter systems password breach that they experienced just days out before the election. This is the same Secretary of State, Jena Griswold, that moved to disqualify Trump for running for president. Yes, that Jena Griswold. And she is now in a world of trouble. Her office caught red-handed, covering up for the failures of her office. Wait till you see this. And a refreshing breath of fresh air with Trump's new press secretary announcement tapping Carolyn Levitt, a 27-year-old, smart, articulate, and a voracious defender of truth. We're going to look at some of her best highlights. Also, what's happening over at the Hoover Building in Washington, D.C.? Well, the deep state's now at work trying to front-run Trump's announcement on who's going to be replacing Chris Wray to lead the FBI, and more stories from around the country. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. Bombshell audio just out exposing Colorado's Secretary of State Jena Griswold's office caught red-handed covering up the voting system password leak that was reported about days before the election. This audio completely contradicts Jena Griswold's previous statements about this, that they had nothing to hide, that her office immediately moved to change those passwords after learning about the breach. And we have the audio from this new shocking call that Colorado's Secretary of State's office had with these county clerks. Before we play it though, just realize the Secretary of State is in charge of state elections, right? Election security, all of it. As citizens, we want to know that the person in that job, their office, takes these matters seriously and is above reproach. Well, Jena Griswold, she already got a whole slew of questions around her. This is the same person who decided to unilaterally disqualify Donald Trump, removing his name from Colorado's ballot, only to have the Supreme Court overrule her decision just weeks later. So that's the context here. That's the person at the center of all of this. Here she was on MSNBC after being told by the Supreme Court, you have no authority to do this. Watch.
My larger reaction is disappointment. I do believe that states should be able, under our Constitution, to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists. And ultimately, this decision leaves open the door for Congress to act to pass authorizing legislation. But we know that Congress is a nearly non-functioning body. So ultimately, it will be up to the American voters to save our democracy in November.
That's who we're talking about here. She's hyper-partisan, so everything she does, a lot of Americans, and especially Coloradans, are wary whose interests she really is serving with these decisions. So when it came out only days before the 2024 election that her office, which is in charge of all of Colorado's elections, had accidentally published 600 BIOS passwords to their voting machine systems, people were furious about it.
Democratic Secretary of State Jena Griswold's office was not going to tell county election clerks and the public that they had accidentally leaked voting machine passwords. 9 News Investigates has obtained an audio recording where Griswold's chief deputy tells the clerks that they were not going to be told because it would cause a media frenzy. Griswold only notified the clerks and only changed the passwords after that security breach was revealed to the media and the public. That security breach came out 5 days after Griswold's office learned about it, when the Colorado Republican Party broke the news and asked for an investigation. The passwords had been inadvertently posted on her website in the hidden tab of a spreadsheet, sitting there for months. Clerks were upset to find out about it through the news. Griswold told me that day that she hadn't decided whether the public was ever going to be told.
Well, now we know that her office went to great lengths to cover this up, saying on this newly leaked call between her office and county clerks that they don't want to create a media storm around this. You can't make this up. And listen to the pushback they got from these county clerks, shocked by the level of incompetence coming out of her office. Roll the tape.
9 News Investigates got a hold of an audio recording of Griswold's top deputy speaking to the clerks just minutes after I talked with Griswold that day.
Josh, I appreciate that you're expressing upset. And
I'm
you're
not
traveling.
upset, Chris. I'm pissed off, and it's really hard not answering media questions the way I actually want to.
Okay. I will tell you, all I can do is be as transparent as I possibly can. We were not going to tell counties because we could not tell counties without it becoming the media storm it has become.
It's Chris.
No, it is not.
The clerk there saying it's bull is a Democratic clerk, we should mention. Election security experts say that the leaked passwords alone were not enough to compromise Colorado's voting system. Secretary of State Griswold initially brushed off the incident, said that her office would be investigating itself. The governor then called for an outside investigation. That's now happening. Griswold's office says that she regrets that the clerks found out about this from the media 5 days after she learned of the leak. But her office reiterated to us today that telling the clerks without, quote, determining the full scope of the issue and having a, quote unquote, outreach strategy, that would have posed what they see as a significant risk.
In another story, Donald Trump announces Carolyn Leavitt will be the new White House press secretary. The smart and ferocious defender of truth will be a breath of fresh air for the nation. Wait till you see who the media is going to be battling in that briefing room every single day. And many people thought Trump couldn't find a better press secretary than Kayleigh McEnany, who was great, right? Probably the best press secretary we've had in modern history. Well, Carolyn Leavitt will give Kayleigh a run for her money. If you don't know who she is, here's our next White House press secretary. Watch this.
It takes someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently,
we're going to stop this interview if you're going to keep
President
attacking
Trump
my colleagues.
Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you
I'm
continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
Yes.
If you are here to speak on his behalf, I am willing to have this conversation.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay.
Now, as
I'm
for
sorry,
this
guys.
debate,
We're going to come back out to the
expectation
panel.
for-
Caroline,
the
thank you very much for
expectation
your time. You are welcome to come back at any point. She is welcome to come back and speak about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will have equal time to Joe Biden when they both join us now at later this week in Atlanta for this debate.
I want to talk about violence against political opponents. Let's talk about the fact that Democrats have been labeling President Trump a threat to democracy for the better half of 10 years. Let's talk about how they have compared him to Hitler, one of the worst mass murderers in the history of the world, and that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden weaponized the court system and the justice system in this country against Donald Trump in an attempt to imprison him. He sat through a courthouse for 7 weeks this past year, and the Democrats were hoping he would go to jail for it. That is real political violence that has led to 2 heinous assassination attempts on President Trump's life that, by the grace of God, he was able to escape, and he is here with us today. So yes, President Trump knows a little bit about political violence because he's experienced it himself. And talking about the tragic realities of war that Liz Cheney and her father, Dick Cheney, have got this country into is not political violence. It's talking about the reality of the foreign conflicts that the Washington, D.C. establishment have sold out young Americans to for decades.
And let's just take a minute to reflect on the absolute upgrade America's getting with Trump's latest picks. Carolyn Leavitt to replace Karine Jean-Pierre, one of the worst press secretaries in history. How about RFK Jr., though? For all the people who are up in arms about RFK being the new Secretary of HHS, just look at who RFK's replacing. Biden's HHS secretary is Rachel Levine. I don't know about you, but it seems like a good idea to have someone who's actually healthy and in shape to be Secretary of Health and Human Services. Just my opinion. RFK Jr., total beast, right? 70 years old, going on 40. And Trump isn't done, folks. One of the most important appointments he's going to make is who will fill the FBI director role. Pick he's been holding close to his vest from what I'm told. Lots of talk, though, around DC that he could tap Kash Patel. We looked at Kash in yesterday's broadcast. He would make an excellent FBI director, root out the rot and weaponization that's taken over the FBI, gut it down to be a straight law enforcement agency, get it out of the muck of the intel gathering and weaponization business. Because let's get something straight. The FBI is used as a political tool of the system. Not necessarily loyal to either side, loyal to themselves though. Still run very much like it was during the J. Edgar Hoover days, just better, more professional, and ballooned in size. The number of secrets and compromise that's held inside the basement archives of the Hoover building would probably blow our freaking minds, people. And Kash Patel wants to go in there and shut it all down, turn it into a museum of the deep state. Roll the tape. Without saying, this is dangerous business, right? The FBI has taken down presidents in the past, investigated and spied on civil rights heroes, activists on both sides of the political spectrum. We know what happened to MLK and JFK when they just tiptoed around sensitive issues. Trump's now not tiptoeing, he's in the process of tearing this hydra down, which is why it's critical to keep him safe until inauguration. Once he's sworn in, he'll have his people leading up these agencies, presidential level protection, and I'd feel personally much better. But right now, the threat Trump poses to the status quo is just insane. He needs to be extremely careful. Here's his longtime friend and confidant, Roger Stone, explain why he's so concerned right now for Trump's safety over the next 7 weeks and what he believes Trump should do or shouldn't be doing during this transition. Roll the tape.
But to do that, he's going to have to dismantle our current elite cabal that, in conjunction with their allies in the media, have a very different idea about America. So my number one concern is his safety. Now, if there hadn't already been 2 assassination attempts against him that we know of, you might say, well, that's just a conspiracy theory. But no, they tried to kill him twice. I think that they will go to any length whatsoever. So all these people now hitting me up on my phone for inauguration tickets, I'm not sure I want to see him out on the portico taking the oath of office, in public. I kind of wish that he would do it in a private, highly secured ceremony inside with all the necessary officials. It's not that he's afraid. He's afraid of nothing. He knows no fear. But I do fear some other attempt to destroy him. I worry about it when he flies, for example. Back when I was a lobbyist for Angola, for the Angolan freedom fighters, I helped them get shoulder-launched, Stinger missiles. They can take down an airplane. So that's my number one concern. And